We said, we tell them we want a hearing to apply for Augustine Paul to recuse, or else we're walking off. And I stood up. My lawyers all stood up. They packed their bags. They were just about to walk out of court. Then the court said, okay, we'll allow you to submit your application. Submit now. We said, we can't submit now. We got to go back and prepare the papers. Why didn't you submit earlier? We said, we didn't know who the judges were going to be. You refused to tell us who the judges were going to be until this morning. We found out. Okay, we'll give you until Friday. Then the court registrar stood up and says, Your Honor, the court doesn't sit on Friday. Oh, court don't sit, huh? Okay, never mind. Then Monday next week. I said, the federal court judge doesn't even know when his court sits. So he says, okay, we shall ask Augustine Paul to leave the room while the remaining two judges will listen to your application for recuse. We said, no. If you ask Augustine Paul to leave the room, we want a third judge to come back. There must be 3 judges, or 5, but not 2. We're not going to settle for 2. He says, no. We're just going to give you 2 judges. Malik stood up. He read out the Constitution. He says, under the Constitution, this is illegal. You can't have 2 judges. He says, no, we're going to have it with 2 judges. You like it or not? So they said, okay, let's listen to your appeal. Just tell us. He says, no, I have the thing here. I'm going to read. No need to read. You just give us a summary. We know how to read. We'll read ourselves. Malik says, no. I'm going to read out the grounds on why we want this judge to be recused. So he read through the series of articles. And when these 2 judges heard what I had written about Augustine Paul, those last 10 years, I think you are purposely trying to make us angry by reading that. Stop reading. So they said, we're going to make our decision now. Our decision, Augustine Paul stays. And then he called Augustine Paul, and what the judge said. Augustine Paul can take his rightful place on the bench. That was a pre-decision which they made. We protested. He said, we're going to appeal to a higher court. We said, you can do what you like. That's what the judge replied. He was so unbecoming of a federal court judge. The second hearing, third hearing, fourth hearing, I didn't go. My lawyer said, don't go. Because my wife was getting into a temper. She took off her shoes and she says, what's the fine if I throw my shoes at the judge? I say, you go to jail for 10 years. I say, you go to jail for 10 years. It's not just a fine. Anyhow, just like what happened in 2001 during my first habeas corpus, Augustine Paul died also. So my wife said, maybe we'll go for a 3rd round. I don't think any judge will dare sit. So far, 2 trials, judges died, you know. So I think the 3rd one, they're all going to say, no, I'm not going to be a judge on RPK's trial. So they have been, the government and the legal system has been manipulating the issue of the ISA. Now, in 2002, about 8 years ago, the Human Rights Commission of Malaysia, SIHRG, had held an inquiry in Taiping, not far from Kemunting. And I was asked to testify during SIHRG's inquiry. SIHRG wanted to know what's life in the 60 days detention. What are you subjected to? After I related what we had to go through during the 60 days, and I was asked to testify because none of the others wanted to testify. So I was the only one who was prepared to testify, so I testified and I related what we had to go through in 60 days, the first 60 days. SIHRG, after listening to the testimony and after visiting Kemunting and looking at the situation themselves, came up with a recommendation that the ISA is either repealed or reviewed or amended, because the ISA clearly is being abused for political reasons. The Human Rights Commission of Malaysia, which was set up by the government anyway, is a government agency. They too are of the opinion that the ISA is outlived its usefulness, is being manipulated for political reasons. Some of the things I told Suhakam,